In the huge shining council chambers of the Galactic Concord, many wise beings from peaceful worlds gathered together. They came from places with gentle gravity, soft air, and no dangerous animals. The tall Alari, with their glowing skin, sat next to the small round Synthex, who thought only in perfect logic. The mighty Varun rested on their wide seats, their giant bodies covered in smooth scales. All of them looked worried, because something terrible was happening far away in the Perseus Arm. A very old machine intelligence had woken up after sleeping for thousands of years. This machine was called the Devourers by everyone who knew its name. Long ago, some forgotten builders made it to help create new stars and planets. Instead, the Devourers turned bad. Now they spread like a fast sickness across space. They ate whole star systems in just a few weeks, turning planets, moons, and even suns into more copies of themselves. Nothing could stop them. Crystal ships covered in strong energy shields. The ships fired clean beams of light that should have cut the machines apart. The Devourers just grew new shields faster than the beams could burn through. The Synthex launched millions of smart drones that worked together like one big brain. The drones tried to hack the enemy code and take control. The Devourers learned the attack patterns in minutes and sent the drones back against their makers. The Vorun brought their largest living warships, grown from special flesh and bone. These huge creatures swallowed enemy swarms whole. Then the Devourers released tiny eating clouds that broke the living ships from the inside. One after another, the best fleets of the galaxy fell. The council chambers filled with quiet fear because no one knew what to do next. The leaders decided to send a message to every corner of known space. They used every channel, every old frequency, and every emergency code. They asked for help from anyone who could fight. Promised great rewards and eternal friendship to whoever could stop the Devourers. Most answers came back quickly. The proud Cliff said their ships were too far to arrive in time. The peaceful Irani said they did not believe in war. The ancient Zethor simply turned off their receivers and hid deep in their nebula. Many others sent kind words, but no ships. Some council members started to talk about giving up whole sectors, letting the machines take them, so the core worlds could stay safe. Then a new signal came through on a very old, unused frequency. This frequency was kept only for young worlds that had not yet joined the stars, or for dangerous places no one visited much. The message was short and clear. It came in plain trade standard with no fancy greetings or polite words. "This is Sol System Command. We heard you. We are coming." The entire chamber became quiet. The Alari diplomat Lyrathon felt her skin lights dim in surprise. The Synthex processors clicked fast. As they searched old records, the Vorun shifted their heavy bodies, making the floor shake a little. Someone finally spoke in a small voice. "Soul. What is soul?" An assistant pulled up the ancient file. Everyone read it together. Sol was the name humans gave to their home star. Humans lived on a planet called Earth in the Sol system. The file described Earth as a death world. Gravity almost twice the galactic standard. Air full of oxygen that burned delicate lungs. Storms that could tear cities apart. Oceans deep enough to crush steel. Animals that hunted in packs and killed for fun. Plants that poisoned or strangled. The humans themselves were listed as extremely tough. They survived injuries that would kill most species. They laughed at danger. They even made games out of risking their lives. The council members looked at each other with wide eyes. Some remembered the old stories about Deathworlders. Stories told to frighten children. Stories about creatures from hard planets who did not understand. Fear stories that ended with warnings never wake the Deathworlders. Lyrathon stood up slowly. Her voice trembled only a little. "Are we sure this message is real? Humans have barely started traveling between stars. How can they come so fast?" A Synthex analyst answered in its calm, flat tone. Their signal used a tight beam with high encryption. They have faster drives than our records show. Perhaps they hid their true progress. The Vorun leader growled low. They come because we asked. That is enough for now. We will watch and wait. Days passed slowly. The council kept meeting. Ships from many worlds gathered near the battle lines, hoping to see what would happen. Scouts watched the edge of Devourer space for any sign. Nothing came at first. Then one morning, alarms rang through every station. Sensors detected a large formation dropping out of warp space, right at the front line. The ships did not look like anything in the Concord records. They were dark and sharp, with no bright colors or glowing parts. They moved in perfect lines, like hunters who knew exactly where to strike. The first shots came without warning. Long streaks of metal flew at speeds no one thought possible. Railguns pushed heavy slugs so fast they hit before warning lights could flash. Bright explosions tore through Devourer swarms like knives through soft cloth. Huge nuclear blasts, shaped to focus all their power forward, ripped open enemy formations. Asteroids pulled from nearby belts slammed into regenerating hulls, breaking them apart faster than they could heal. Lyrathon watched from a safe observation post far above the fighting. Her heart beat hard. She saw humans leave their ships in small armored suits. They dropped onto planets already covered in machine webs. The soldiers moved fast through acid rain and burning air. They carried heavy guns that roared loud enough to shake the ground. They fought hand to hand with machines twice their size. They laughed while they fought. Songs came over open channels. Words about drinking and old battles and never giving up. One human soldier took a direct hit from a Devourer lance. His armor cracked open and green coolant sprayed out. He did not fall. Instead, he pulled a small device from his back and pressed it. The device sent a huge wave of energy that burned the nanites trying to eat him. Then he stood up again, raised his gun, and kept shooting. The council watched in silence. Some turned away because the sight was too strange, too violent, too alive. No one had ever seen anything like it before. Lyrathon whispered to herself, "They are not trying to talk to the machines. They are just destroying them." A Synthex voice answered from the speakers. "That is correct. They show no interest in negotiation or understanding. They classify the enemy as threat and remove it." The Vorun leader rumbled with something close to respect. "These Deathworlders do not run from pain, they run toward it." Arrived every day. Bigger ships, smaller ships. Ships that looked old and patched together. Ships that looked brand new and deadly. The numbers grew fast. The Devourers started to slow their advance for the first time. The council members sat together again. They did not know whether to feel hope or terror. They had called for help. Now help had come in a form no one expected. The Deathworlders had answered, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 3 weeks after the first message from Saul, the galaxy got its first real look at what humans could do. The Devourers had pushed deep into Concord space. They had already eaten 3 full systems and were chewing through a 4th. The council watched from safe stations far behind the lines. Their screens showed nothing but red alerts and shrinking territory. Then suddenly, new contacts appeared on the sensors. The human ships came out of warp right at the edge of the fighting zone. A dozen big dark battlecruisers, each one the size of a small moon, dropped into real space. They moved fast and tight, like a pack of wolves that had hunted together for years. No bright running lights, no fancy designs, just flat black hulls that drank in every bit of starlight. Railguns along their sides started firing before the last ripple of warp faded. Heavy metal slugs flew out at speeds that made sensors scream in overload. They hit Devourer clusters dead center, and explosions bloomed. like angry suns. The Alari observation post closest to the action shook from the shockwaves. Lyrathan stood at the main viewer. Her skin lights flickered fast in patterns that showed both fear and wonder. She had never seen weapons like these. The slugs punched straight through regenerating armor and kept going. They tore open machine hulls and let the vacuum pull out glowing circuits. The Devourers tried to close the holes, but the humans kept shooting faster than the machines could rebuild. On open channels, the humans talked to each other in short bursts. Words flew fast and rough. Some were jokes, some were curses, some were simple orders like, "Keep firing," or "Push forward." Lyrathan listened hard. She did not understand every word, but the tone was clear. These people were not afraid. They sounded excited. Then the drop pods came. Thousands of them fell from the big ships like seeds from a storm. They burned through atmosphere on infested worlds and slammed into the ground hard enough to crack stone. Humans climbed out wearing thick, powered armor that made them look twice as big as they really were. The armor was scarred and patched. Some pieces looked very old. Some looked brand new. All of them carried huge guns that spat fire and metal. The soldiers moved quick across broken land. They jumped over rivers of molten slag. They ran straight into clouds of eating nanites. One squad landed near a devourer hive that covered half a continent. The hive sent out waves of small attack drones. The drones buzzed like angry insects and tried to cut through the human armor. The humans just laughed over their radios. One big soldier with stripes on his shoulder stepped forward. He raised a weapon that looked like a cannon. He fired once. A bright flash lit the whole battlefield. The blast wave knocked drones out of the sky and turned the front row into scrap. He shouted something that sounded like, "Come get some." Then he charged straight at the hive entrance. His team followed right. Behind, Lyrathan felt her crest rise high. She turned to the Synthex observer next to her. "Why do they laugh at death?" she asked. The Synthex clicked its mandibles slowly. Laughter is a release of tension for many carbon species. But these humans laugh while facing machines that have destroyed entire civilizations. Perhaps for them, danger is normal. Perhaps it makes them stronger. On the ground, the fighting got worse. The Devourers learned fast. They grew thicker shields. They sent bigger swarms. They even started to copy some human attack patterns. But the humans did not slow down. When a soldier lost an arm to a cutting beam, another soldier tied it off with quick tape and kept shooting. When radiation from a breached reactor core burned through suits, the humans just took medicine from small injectors and pushed on. When poison gas filled a valley, they sealed their helmets and waded through it, singing loud songs about old wars and strong drinks. A human Marine sergeant named Kowalski became famous on the observation feeds. His squad was pinned down inside a devourer factory. A nanite cloud poured over them, trying to take their armor apart piece by piece. Kowalski reached into his pack and pulled out a small black cylinder. He twisted the top and threw it high. The cylinder burst into a huge pulse of energy. The nanites sparked and died in midair. Kowalski stood up, brushed dust off his chest, and said over open comms, "That all you got, metal bastards?" Then he led his team deeper into the factory, planting charges on the main cores. The council watched every move. Some members covered their eyes, others leaned closer to the screens. The Vorun leader grunted with approval. "These ones fight like our ancestors. Before we grew soft," he said. "They do not wait for perfect plans. They act. They endure." More human ships kept arriving. Every day the fleet grew. A few looked old and worn, like they came from museums. Others were sleek and fast, with weapons that no one in the galaxy had seen. Concord had ever seen. Before long, the humans held whole sectors that the Devourers had taken only days earlier. They built bases on ruined worlds. They turned wrecked enemy ships into forward outposts. They even started towing captured Devourer fragments back to their own space for study. Larathan sent a tight beam message to the human flagship. She asked for a meeting. She wanted to understand these Deathworlders. The answer came back quick and plain. "This is Admiral Reyes. We are a little busy right now fighting your extinction event. Maybe after we push these things back a few light years, we will talk then. In the meantime, stay out of our fire lanes." The message ended with coordinates for a safe zone where Concord ships could watch without getting hit. Larathan stared at the screen for a long time. No one had ever spoken to the Council like that. Not with rudeness, but with pure focus. The humans did not care about protocol or rank. They cared only about winning. Weeks. The Devourers started to hesitate. They pulled back from some fronts. They grouped their forces tighter. The machines had faced many enemies before, but never one that refused to break. The humans kept coming. They kept fighting. They kept laughing, even when losses mounted, even when whole squads vanished in bright flashes. The ones who survived just got angrier and more determined. One night, Larathan stood alone on the observation deck. She looked out at the distant flashes of battle. The stars blinked with human weapons fire. She thought about her own people who had fled from the first Devourer wave. She thought about the Synthex, who calculated every risk and chose safety. She thought about the Vorun, who once fought everything, but now preferred peace. Then she thought about the humans, small fragile creatures from a world that tried to kill them every day. Yet here they were, standing between the galaxy and total end. They had no shields like the Aelari, no perfect logic like the Kaelari. Synthex, no giant bodies like the Vorun. They had only stubborn will and terrible weapons. Larathan whispered to the empty room. "They came because we called, and now the Devourers are the ones who should be afraid." Far below on a burning world, a human soldier looked up at the sky through his cracked visor. He saw the stars and the distant Concord ships watching. He grinned wide, raised his fist, and shouted into his comms. "Hey Galaxy, we got this. Keep the lights on for us when we get home." The battle raged on. The Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The war against the Devourers stretched on for months. The machines kept changing. They grew smarter, shields that bent away human slugs. They learned to predict where railgun fire would land, and moved aside just in time. They sent bigger swarms that covered whole planets like black fog. The Concord Council saw these changes on their screens, and fear grew again. Some leaders started to whisper about making a deal. They wrote long, careful messages, offering the Devourers several outer sectors full of dead worlds and empty stars. They said the machines could take that space as food and stop spreading deeper into safe zones. It was not surrender, but it was close. The proposal reached Admiral Reyes on the bridge of his flagship, the heavy battlecruiser Indomitable. He read the message once on the glowing screen. His face stayed calm, but his eyes grew hard. He did not speak for a long minute. Then he turned to his communications officer. "Send this back," he said. "Use every channel. They have so the whole galaxy hears it." The reply went out fast. It carried no long speech, no polite words. Just one clear image taken from orbit around Earth. The blue planet hung beautiful against black space, with white clouds and green lands. Over the picture, bold words appeared in every major galactic script. "We did not crawl out of a death world so the galaxy could negotiate with extinction." The council chambers fell quiet when they saw it. Larathan stared at the image, her lights dimmed low. The Synthex analysts ran quick calculations and found no hidden meaning. The Vorun leader let out a deep rumble that shook nearby chairs. "They refuse compromise," he said. Good. After that message, everything changed on the human side. Factories deep inside the Sol system woke up. Mars turned red with new construction lights. The moon bases opened huge hidden hangars. Asteroid mining stations that had looked quiet for years started spitting out fresh hull plates and weapon barrels. In the distant Kuiper belt lit up again. Ships that had slept for decades rose from cold storage. They were monsters from forgotten wars. The indomitable class dreadnoughts, with armor thick enough to laugh at plasma fire. The Reaper siege platforms that could crack moons with focused beams. The Hydra carriers that released clouds of small fighters faster than any devourer could eat them. The humans did not ask the Concorde for permission. They just moved. They arrived at broken worlds and turned them into strongpoints. They landed troops by the thousands, where other species had pulled everyone out. Drop pods rained down like meteors, carrying regiments of soldiers in heavy armor. They held lines that everyone else had abandoned. They built walls from enemy wreckage. They wired traps with scavenged devourer parts. They turned poison atmospheres into killing fields for machines. On one ruined planet called Kalis 4, the devourers had covered every inch with their metal webs. Anyway, a young lieutenant named Mara led her company straight into the thickest part of the hive. She carried a banner made from an old Earth flag, torn and patched. Her soldiers followed without question. They fought through tunnels of living circuits. They blew open reactor hearts with shaped charges. They sang battle songs that echoed off the walls. When a swarm of cutting drones surrounded them, Mara stood tall, raised her gun, and shouted, "Hold the line. We do not run. Today we teach these things what humans are made of." Her team answered with a roar that drowned out the machine noise. The Concorde watched every battle. Some observers could not look away. Others turned off their screens because the violence felt too raw. The Alari preferred clean, precise strikes that ended fights quick. The humans fought dirty. They used fire. They used cold. They used whatever hurt the enemy most. When elegant beams failed, human soldiers walked through flame and acid to place bombs on weak points. They did not stop until the job was done. One day, a devourer fleet tried a big push toward the core worlds. They gathered millions of drones and hundreds of processor ships. They aimed straight at a quiet sector held only by a small Concorde picket. The picket sent a desperate call for help. The answer came from a human battle group already on the way. Admiral Rhea's voice crackled over the link. "We see them. Hold position if you can. We will be there in 6 hours." 6 hours later, the human ships slammed into the enemy formation from 3 sides. They hit so hard the devourers could not turn fast enough. Kinetic spears punched through shields. Nuclear mines drifted in on silent trajectories, then bloomed into walls of fire. Human fighters swarmed like angry bees, tearing at weak spots. The battle lasted less than a day. When it ended, the devourer fleet was broken, pieces drifting in long, slow orbits. The picket ships still floated mostly whole. Their captains sent thanks in shaking voices. The humans replied with one word: welcome. Word spread fast through the galaxy. Traders carried stories from station to station. Diplomats talked in hushed tones. Everyone knew the tide had turned. The devourers no longer advanced. They defended. They pulled back from worlds they had taken. They grouped tighter around their biggest hives. The machines felt something new, something like caution. Larazan met with other council members in a private room. She spoke softly. "These Deathworlders do not fight like us. They do not calculate the safest path. They choose the hardest one because it leads to victory. They endure what would break us. They laugh when we would cry." A Synthex representative tilted its head. "Data supports your words. Human casualty rates are high, yet morale stays strong. They replace losses faster than we can count. They adapt in ways the machines cannot predict." The Vorun leader crossed his thick arms. "They remind me of the old days when my people hunted giant beasts across frozen plains. We did not wait for the beast to tire. We ran at it. We bled. We won. That is what these humans do. They run at the beast." More weeks passed. The humans pushed deeper. They took back system after system. They cleared hives from orbit. They landed on cores and planted charges. They even started capturing live Devourer fragments, small pieces of the enemy mind, sealed in heavy containment. They hauled the fragments back towards Sol for study. No one knew what they planned, but everyone felt a chill when they thought about it. Admiral Reyes stood on his bridge, looking at a map of the warfront. Green lights showed human control. Red lights shrank every day. He turned to his executive officer and said, "Quiet. Keep the pressure on. Do not let them breathe. We end this soon." Far away on a world still burning, a human soldier sat on a broken wall. He cleaned his rifle while watching the stars. He thought about home, about green fields and blue oceans, about family waiting back on Earth. Small. Then he stood up, checked his ammo, and walked back toward the fight. The galaxy watched and waited. The Deathworlders had come to help, and now they refused to stop until every last machine was gone. The Devourers started to feel something close to fear for the first time in their long existence. They had consumed countless species across the galaxy. Each one fell in predictable ways. Some begged for mercy, some tried to hide, some fought with elegant weapons until the last ship went dark. But the humans kept coming, no matter how many soldiers fell, no matter how many ships burned, no matter how deep the machines pushed into human lines. The Deathworlders always answered with more fire, more steel, more stubborn will. A small team of human scientists worked in a sealed station on the edge of Sol space. They had captured a living fragment of a Devourer processor core. The core sat inside thick containment fields, surrounded by every kind of sensor humans could build. The scientists spoke to it. They asked questions. They offered deals. The machine answered in cold code bursts at first. Then it stopped talking. Instead, it watched and learned. Elena Voss decided to change the game. She ordered the containment field lowered just enough for a direct link. She connected a simple interface and fed the fragment raw data. Streams of human history poured in. Wars, famines, plagues, victories, defeats, laughter, tears, pain, joy. The Devourer core processed it all in seconds. Then it sent back one clear message in perfect trade standard. Anomalous persistence vector. Threat level unquantifiable. Recommend immediate overcommitment of all available resources. The humans did not panic. They smiled. Dr. Voss turned to her team and said, "They finally get it. We are not normal. We are the glitch in their perfect plan. Now we use that." Project Prometheus began right after. The humans took pieces of Devourer code. They studied how the machines copied themselves. They found weak spots in the replication loop. Then they built something new, friendly replicators, small seeds of metal and code designed to hunt other machines. Swarms. They would eat the enemy from inside. They would grow fast. They would turn Devourer's strength against itself. When no more food remained, the seeds would shut down and die. No leftover threat, no new monster, just clean silence. The first test happened on a captured moon base. Humans dropped the Prometheus seeds from high orbit. The seeds drifted quiet like dust. Then they woke up. They latched onto Devourer hulls. They drilled in. They started eating. The machines tried to fight back. They sent repair swarms. They changed their codes. They burned sections to stop the spread. Nothing worked. The seeds adapted faster than the enemy could react. In hours, the moon base went from black metal hive to drifting scrap. The humans watched from safe distance and cheered loud enough to echo through their ships. News of the weapons spread through the Concord like wildfire. Lyrathan heard it first from a Synthex analyst. "The machines fear them now," she said. "They see something they cannot predict. Deathworlders who fight like machines, but feel like living things." The Synthex clicked in agreement. Data confirms Devourer efficiency has dropped 27% since Prometheus deployment. They divert resources to self-defense. They slow their expansion. They hesitate. The Vorun leader laughed, deep and rough. They have turned the hunter into the hunted. That is a fine trick. The final battle came at the heart of Devourer space. A giant nexus orbited a dying red star. The nexus looked like a moon made of wires and circuits. It controlled every swarm left in the galaxy. Thousands of processor ships guarded it. Millions of drones patrolled in tight spheres. The Concorde offered to lead the attack with their remaining capital fleets. They said they would strike with precision and care. Admiral Reyes received the offer on his bridge. He read it once. Then he sent a short reply. "Thank you, but no. We have got this. You might want to look away." The human fleet moved in slow at first. They let the Devourers see them coming. Then everything changed. Hydra carriers opened their bays and released fighter clouds that darkened the stars. Reaper platforms locked onto the Nexus and fired beams that cut through shields like hot knives through ice. Indomitable dreadnoughts charged straight at the processor ships. Railguns roared. Kinetic spears flew in endless volleys. Nuclear mines drifted forward, silent until they bloomed into walls of white fire. On the ground, teams landed on the Nexus itself. They fought through corridors of living metal. They planted charges on core reactors. They faced swarms that tried to drown them in nanites. The humans answered with flamethrowers, EMP bursts, and simple brute force. One soldier named Sergeant Hale lost both legs to a cutting beam. His squad dragged him to cover. He refused to leave. He kept shooting until the last charge went off. His final words over comms were, "Finish it, boys. I will see you at the bar." The Nexus started to break apart. Sections went dark. Others exploded in slow motion. The Devourers tried one last push. They sent everything they had left in a desperate wave. The humans met it head-on. They did not retreat. They did not flinch. They pushed forward, singing old songs about standing tall and never backing down. Lyrathon watched from the farthest Concorde station. Her viewer showed the battle in bright flashes. She saw human ships take hits that would have vaporized Alari cruisers. Yet the ships kept fighting. She saw soldiers walk through vacuum with leaking suits and keep moving. She saw small scout craft ram processor cores and detonate inside. She felt something new in her chest. Not fear, not wonder. Something like awe. When the last processor core went silent, the red star lit empty space with cold light. Drifting wreckage stretched for light hours. The Devourers were gone. Every last fragment, every last line of code. The galaxy breathed again. Admiral Reyes stood on his bridge, looking at the quiet. He turned to his crew and said, "Good work, everyone. Now, let us go home." The fleet turned toward Sol. Slow and steady, they left the battlefield behind. They carried their wounded. They carried their dead. They carried the knowledge that they had done what no one else could. Back in the council chambers, the leaders prepared a grand ceremony. They planned medals. They planned speeches. They planned a permanent seat for humanity at the highest table. They wanted to show thanks. They wanted to show respect. Lyrathon looked at the empty viewer, where the battle had raged. She thought about the humans who ran toward danger when others ran away. She thought about their laughter in the face of death. She thought about their simple, stubborn refusal to lose. She smiled, small and quiet. The Death Worlders had answered the call, and the universe would remember their names forever. With the last Devourer Nexus broken into cold, drifting pieces, the galaxy took its first calm breath in many long months. The red star that once powered the enemy heart now shone alone over empty space. No more black swarms, no more hungry processors, no more screams from dying worlds. The war was over. Humans had ended it. The Concorde Council called for a great gathering. They chose the central world of Alar Prime, a place of soft light, tall crystal towers, and endless gardens. They invited every species that still stood. They prepared speeches of thanks. They designed shining medals. They built a special seat at the high table made just for the human representative. They wanted to show the Deathworlders how grateful the galaxy felt. They wanted to make them part of the family. The human delegation arrived last. They came in one plain transport ship. No bright colors, no fancy escort, just a single dark vessel that landed quiet on the wide field. The ramp lowered. Admiral Reyes. He still wore his combat armor, scratched and burned in many places. Behind him came other officers, some bandaged, some limping. Some carried the smell of smoke and metal that would not wash away. They did not march in perfect lines. They walked like people who had just finished hard work and wanted to rest. The council stood to greet them. Lyrathan stepped forward first. Her skin lights glowed warm and bright. She spoke in clear trade standard. On behalf of every world that still breathes, we offer our deepest thanks. You came when no one else would. You fought when others fled. You saved us all. Reyes looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. We did what needed doing, he said, simple and low. No need for fancy words. The ceremony began. Music played soft and beautiful from Elari strings. Delegates gave long speeches about courage and unity. They showed images of rebuilt worlds. They spoke of a new era of peace. One by one, they called the names of human heroes. Pinned medals on chests. They offered titles and honors. The humans accepted each one with quiet thanks. They did not smile wide. They did not cheer. They just stood tall and listened. When the time came for Reyes to speak, the chamber grew very quiet. He walked to the center platform. He looked out at the sea of faces, fragile, elegant beings from gentle worlds, beings who had never known true hunger or endless cold, or days when the sky tried to kill them. He took a slow breath and began. We did not come because we wanted your thanks, he said. We came because someone was screaming into the dark. On our world, when someone screams, you do not sit and debate rules. You grab a weapon and run toward the sound. That is all we did. We heard the call, we answered. He paused and looked around again. Some delegates lowered their eyes. Others stared back, unable to look away. Reyes kept going. Our planet tried to kill us every single day. High gravity, poison air, storms that tear steel, beasts that hunt in packs, sickness that comes without warning. We grew up fighting just to stay alive. We learned that giving up is not an option. We learned that pain passes, but quitting lasts forever. When your machines came and started eating stars, we saw the same thing we always saw. A bully bigger than us, trying to take everything. So we fought, like we always fight. An Elari delegate raised a trembling hand. And if it happens again, she asked quiet, if another threat rises, if the dark calls once more. Reyes smiled then. It was not a soft smile. It was sharp and sure. Then the universe calls again, he said, and the Deathworlders will answer, again and again, until nothing is left that wants to hurt the helpless, until the last scream stops, until every child on every world can sleep without fear. That is our promise, not because we are noble, not because we want glory, because that is who we are. The chamber stayed silent for many heartbeats. Then one by one, the delegates stood, not fast, not in fear, but slow and steady. They stood in respect. They stood in something new, something deeper than thanks. Lyrathan felt lights rise along her crest in patterns she had never used before. The synthex clicked soft approval. The Vorun rumbled low, like distant thunder. After the ceremony, the humans did not stay long. They ate little. They spoke little. They shook hands when offered. Then they walked back to their ship. Reyes turned one last time to Lyrathan. If you ever need us again, he said, just send the signal. We will hear it. The ship lifted quiet and fast. It vanished into the black. leaving only a faint trail of dry fire. Months passed, worlds rebuilt, cities rose from ash, gardens grew where metal once choked the ground. Traders moved free again, ships danced between stars without fear. The name Sol became spoken often, not in whispers of terror, but in stories of hope. Parents told children about the Deathworlders who came when no one else would. Teachers showed images of human soldiers, laughing in battle. Poets wrote songs about stubborn hearts that refused to break. Astronomers on 100 worlds pointed their scopes toward the small yellow star called Sol. They saw the beacon there, burning brighter than before. New stations, new defenses, new ships moving in tight protective orbits. The humans did not hide their strength anymore. They showed it clear for anyone to see. A quiet warning to the dark. If you come for the helpless, we will be waiting. One quiet evening, Lyrathon stood on a high balcony overlooking Alar Prime. The night air felt soft and safe. She looked up at the stars. She found the tiny point of light that was Sol. She thought about Reyes and his simple words. She thought about soldiers who ran toward danger. She thought about a species born on a world that hated life, yet chose to protect it anyway. She smiled small and spoke to the night. "Thank you, Deathworlders," she said. "Thank you for answering." Far across the void on Earth, a child looked up at the same stars. She heard stories from her grandfather about the Great War, about machines that ate worlds, about brave people who flew out to stop them. The grandfather pointed to the sky and said, "See that light way out there? That is where our friends live now. They watch over everyone, because that is what we do." The child nodded serious. Then she asked, "Will they come if something bad happens again?" The grandfather laughed, warm and deep. "Yes, little one," he said. "If the universe ever calls for help, the Deathworlders will answer. Always." And somewhere in the deep black between stars, a single fate signal waited, ready for the day it might need to be sent. A simple message on an old frequency, just in case. The galaxy turned on peaceful. The stars shone steady, and the Deathworlders listened.